today I'm going to be teaching you how to be an effective close quarter sniper. I'm going to concentrate on the weaker scopes, but even if you use one of the stronger scopes for long range sniping, you'll find that these tactics apply to you as well, because you'll often find yourself having to use your sniper rifle in up close and personal situations. First of all, the most basic and helpful tactic in this guide is to make sure that you're rotating yourself, that as you walk into a room, you are correctly orientated towards the enemy. This will shave off a quarter of a second that you would have used up trying to rotate your hips, then you can now use to zoom in and immediately fire upon an enemy. In order to be successful at close quarter sniping, you need to maintain constant awareness of your surroundings, and you use this information to coordinate the actions you take in the game. This is incredibly important since as a sniper you only have one cartridge to use at a time, and any missteps you take will cost you your life. The most important part of this is correctly navigating your way through the map to make the most successful route as you manage your time between, so that you are not vulnerable during your bolt pullback time. You should use this time to familiarize yourself to what has changed in your environment and point yourself to the next high priority target. You want to listen and look for anything that might give away a location. Things like explosions, tracers, the directions your teammates are pointing, what new passageways are available, and even a quick tap on your map can give you tactical information. Two things to remember as you are up close are: 1. You cannot fire your sniper rifle right away. There's a small period of wait time where if you fire, a large accuracy debuff will be applied and you will not follow the crosshairs at all. And 2. If you are moving in any way when you fire, a smaller accuracy debuff will occur on your. Whenever you are about to come around a tight corner, assume an enemy will be there and scope in if you can, and be ready to twist him, because you will only be able to have a split second to beat him since his superior rate of fire and hip fire accuracy will easily mow you down. There's 3 different stages of movement that you will need to understand. The first one is the waiting stage, where you listen, look at your map, and gather information. This is a lot easier to do and helpful if you're playing in normal and can use equipment such as motion sensors, but in hardcore you're going to have to rely mostly on the environment. You try and remain silent in this stage, and remember that anything you do can be heard, such as reloading, beacons, and spotting. Then the next stage is aggression, in which you move into the attack range in an effort to surprise enemies by catching them off guard. It is really dangerous if other enemies are aware of your position. Once you fire off out, your location is compromised, and you should try and relocate your position and retreat into cover as your bolt pulls back, as well as expect enemies to rest your position. This is where the third stage of defense can take over. In this stage, you are backing out of the area before you are overrun. You want to position yourself in such a way that people will have to come around a tight corner where you can have the jump on them. You will need to relocate quickly because of your inability to more than one person at a time, which leaves you nearly helpless against a full-on rush by multiple enemies. Now, as I come upon this room, which I believe is likely to have people inside it, I stop briefly to listen at the door, and I hear a guy on my right, so I look leftwards to clear that side of the room first of enemies, and then as I enter the room, I rotate my hips to clear the guy on the right, and not seeing anyone else, I quickly whip back to the left corner, which I couldn't see before, and I finish clearing the room. If you're given the opportunity, you should use your enemy's kits and drop supplies to do things such as heal yourself as you reload to be more efficient. When facing a well-dug-in opponent, rather than rushing to try and beat them in an in-your-face confrontation, it usually is easier which will either catch them in the explosion or force them out of their hiding position where you can easily snipe them. In these next few clips, I'm going to be showing you the accuracy debuff I talked about earlier. This occurs because of me firing before the hidden hipfire timer has expired. While physically I'm not hipfiring, the game still thinks I am and applies that debuff. Even though the sniper is physically ready to go in the real world, the game still believes that I'm still not scoped in and applies that debuff. What is happening is that I'm firing prematurely one frame before the scoped in animation has fully completed, and the full hipfire debuff is then applied. It's very difficult to tell when the animation is complete, especially if you are under fire and bouncing around non-stop. And because of this, I believe snipers are a very nerfed choice in general, since they only have that one limited, and this built-in debuff system greatly limits your possible reaction time in the game. Another problem you're going to encounter is many of the snipers have a very slow speed, so anything past 50 meters or so, your air time will start to exceed the other person's reaction time to return fire, and you will start taking fire that you'll have to accommodate for. When it comes to choosing which sniper you want to use, there are 2 different types. The first type is the faster and higher velocity, such as the Scout Elite and the FYJS. Using these snipers, you'll have to engage targets at a closer range, as your damage drops the further away you are, and you really will lose the ability to target in the chest around 100 meters or so. Most people would use the Scout as it is easily available, while the FYJS is difficult to obtain as it requires some 50 plus hits at 250 meters plus, which for the Nova Sniper is actually quite difficult. The advantages of the Scout are that it has a slightly faster velocity, fire rate, and it feels like it has a little bit less random deviation, but you only have 6 compared to the FYJS, which has 11. The FYJS also has practically zero drop until it's past 200 to 300 meters, making it a good idea to use with a medium range scope, allowing you to switch to a longer range sniper role if needed when you're rushing. But the damage it does at this range allows for hits only, especially in normal mode. You're going to have people 3 times in the chest in order to kill them, and sometimes twice in the head, and we all know that that's pretty much impossible and stupid. If you get rushed before you have a chance to zoom in, don't be afraid to fire on the last ditch attempt the guy in front of you, because the hip fire is actually fairly accurate in a small arc around your crosshairs, and you can still sometimes hit an opponent, I'd say about 40% of the time, and it looks really cool and it probably pisses them off. That's better than just, and usually you don't have the time to switch to your anyways, so you might as well just do it. Now, the second type of sniper rifle is the hard rifle, such as the SRR and the M40A5. The SRR is a much slower firing compared to the M40A5. However, it has a much faster travel time and a lot less drop, making it the ideal one for close quarters and as well as medium range maps. However, its drawbacks will have you struggling to engage multiple opponents in close range, because you're going to find yourself you're going to have to run away to reload, and that's really just a huge drawback and not efficient at all. But once you pick up an M40A5, you'll notice the huge drop in reload time and the shortened time between which makes close range combat with this sniper glorious. This is the rail of snipers. It makes me feel like the Boba Fett of dudes in the face. The M40A5 are slower than Scouts, but it has a faster reload time and 11 shots instead of 6, making it the best sniper. You have so much more damage per second going out with this type, with your seeming almost like you're flying in the air in the Matrix, slowed down in time, and when you're shooting another person, your other kind of is about to hit them, and your other's going out. It just looks so cool. And so ultimately, I think the M40A5, because of all these different attributes, make it the best sniper to use in close quarters. And just to clarify here, this is the SRR I'm using. I'll be using it in the next couple of clips, just to show you guys the difference between this full and the other full. You know, the huge difference in fire rate really makes that shine, and I think you'll notice the problems I'm having here with this one are not a problem I have at all with the other one. I'm going to be doing a couple more sniper guide videos, so be sure to check those out and subscribe if you want to see more of these. I'm going to be coming out with them a little bit faster now since I finished my DayZ series, and I did all of the work throughs for that, so I'm going to have more time to concentrate on these videos. So thank you for watching. I hope it helps you watching this guide, and you guys have a good day. Oh, one last thing I wanted to bring up here was the scope that I'm using is the Cobra sight. I believe this is probably the best sight because you have those 3 different red lines that make it so that you can see where your sight is, because a lot of the other scopes, while they look a little bit better with the little tiny dot, when you put that dot against something that's very similar in contrast, you're going to lose your sight completely and you're not going to know where it is. But with this, you get to avoid that problem, so I think this makes it the best scope of all the scopes available for the small end range.